Hello, this is Fritz-Ay Says, and welcome back to Eden's Reach. So, our house just got invaded and all of our stuff was stolen. We've been evicted, and we're crying ourselves to sleep on the floor. Let's see where it goes. A low volume beeping wakes me up from my light sleep. I groggily turn to try and ignore it, but it's incessant. Unable to go back to sleep, feeling slowly returns to my body as the pain from laying on the floor makes itself known. It's a sharp pain starting from my back. It's beginning to look like I wasn't going to get any more sleep, so instead I sluggishly turned to pick up my phone. It was 3:30 in the morning. I swiped through the home screen, seeing the several text messages Dylan sent me. Weirdly, though, I had missed several calls from Oswald. Why is he calling me at such a ridiculous hour? I had little time to contemplate as my phone rings once more. It's Oswald again. I sigh deeply and accept the call this time.
Hey, Miles. Thank goodness you picked up. I was starting to worry that something bad might have happened to you.
You can say that, I suppose. A moment of silence passes, prompting me to clear my throat that was kind of dry from crying myself to sleep. I have to at least not sound like a total wreck right now.
What's wrong? You sound terrible.
Well, there goes that idea. I don't... My eyes begin to well up. I can't seem to bring myself to talk. I want to tell someone. I need to. But the tears, they just won't stop flowing, and my throat, it's tightening even as I try to stop the sobs from escaping. I take deep breaths, trying my best to calm down, but I just can't seem to recompose myself.
Miles, here, why don't you come out for a bit? We can talk things through better in person.
I eventually let out a weak grunt of approval. Oswald was seemingly able to calm me down just like that. Satisfied, Oswald ended the call. I took a few more moments to fully calm down before standing up from the foam flooring. I try my best to prepare as much as I can before heading out, though there wasn't much else to do besides putting on my new jacket and carrying my DJ pad along. Satisfied with myself, I head out into the cold open air. I just take a taxi to the bar. I reach the bar much faster than anticipated. I go out of my cab and the thin outline of neon greets me once more. I expect Max to be at the front entrance, but in his place was Oswald instead. He waves me over with a warm smile as I quickly approach where he stands. He surveys me from head to toe, probably gauging out my emotions. I merely look away as he does, prompting him to finish faster.
Hey, Miles. Was the trip back here okay?
He's trying to sound friendly, most likely due to what happened earlier. It's not that I'm ungrateful for the gesture, but I've grown hating when people do this kind of thing to me. It's just like they did back then, back when people pitied me for dropping out. I just let out a soft sigh and attempt to humor his attempts, not really wanting to land myself in more trouble than I already had. I guess it was.
That's good, at least. Now, what were you going to tell me?
I really thought that I had already finished crying all of my tears out earlier before I got here, but they slowly begin falling down the sides of my muzzle once more. I feel my body shrivel up where I stood, the sensation of numbness slowly creeping across my being. It's all gone. I've got nothing left.
Nothing left? What do you mean?
I went straight home like you suggested, but when I got there, everything that I had was gone. My furniture, my clothes and electronics, even my food. Everything was just gone. I remained silent for a few moments afterwards. Meanwhile, Oswald doesn't respond. I could, however, hear him grumbling under his breath. He seems annoyed. That was an unexpected reaction. I thought he'd be more sympathetic.
I can't believe this. I'm so sorry this happened to you.
He says in a gentle and worried tone. I don't really have the energy to properly process his concern, though, but I am grateful for the sentiment.
Here, I'll send you the payment for the gig earlier. You can also use one of the empty rooms we have here, if you need it.
I guess a place to stay wouldn't be so bad. It would definitely be better than the floor, but... Are you sure it's fine?
Of course it is, don't worry. I'll sort things out when we get there. You don't have to be concerned about anything.
Alright. Oswald walks towards the entrance of the bar and opens the door. I stand behind him and think of what to say, what to do, what the future holds, if I even get that far. So, where will I be staying? The backstage? The employees' room? Oswald turns to me after a clicking sound comes from his direction. He has a rather confused expression on him, most likely from what I said.
What? No. You aren't going to be sleeping in there. I was actually waiting for you to arrive so I can finally close up.
Oh, did you have to wait long?
Not really. Had to wait till Dylan was able to get home on his own. Though he actually left a few minutes before you arrived.
A small speck of concern assaults my mind when I hear Dylan's name. Is he gonna be alright?
He was a bit shaken up, but he'll recover.
Hearing that gives me some peace of mind. Not all of my worries were laid to rest, though. Oswald, what about the two men from earlier? He grimaces at the mention of those two, but he quickly brushes it off himself.
You don't have to worry about them. I'm sure they won't bother you, or anyone for that matter, again.
I stare at him silently while wondering about what exactly he did to those two. An awkward silence falls between us. Oswald clasps his hand together, taking this opportunity to fix his rather rugged-looking tux. Strange. It seemed a lot cleaner when I first got here. I quickly dismiss those thoughts, though, and just chalk it up to another day at the bar. Being the owner must have its own difficulties, after all. He leads me further into the bar than I've been earlier. This place is mostly empty at this point and the lights are off, leaving this rather unsettling feel to the place. Oswald walks towards the same door at the other end of the bar where he directed those two men to work things out. He opens the door and I follow not too far behind him. The door closes behind me on its own, and the scenery that greets me immediately arouses heavy suspicion. The door leads into a tight alleyway, with an entrance on one end, the one behind me, and a thick wall on the other end, the direction that Oswald's walking to. I pause slightly, but he notices. He then signals me to follow, and I comply despite my growing uneasiness. He stops in front of the thick concrete wall and begins fiddling his armlet as he stares at the dead end in front of him. My skepticism rises, and I slowly begin to doubt that he's bringing me anywhere near a bed. He lets out an annoyed grunt, nearly smacking his own wrist in frustration. It's kind of like how you smack a faulty remote in an attempt to get it to work.
Come on, you stupid mechanism.
A little while after grumbling, the wall ever so slightly shakes, causing some dust to fall off. After a heavy sigh, he fiddles around with it a bit more. After he lets out a satisfied huff, the wall in front of us comes sliding down, metallic clinging and clanging coming from below. That takes me by surprise. Oswald starts stepping in and signals me to follow. Now this is definitely not normal. In fact, this is extremely unsettling. He quickly goes down the steps, and I inch towards the entrance, completely hesitant to follow. Oswald notices my hesitation and stops midway. Half of his body is already out of sight, hidden in the darkness below.
Look, I understand that this is rather sketchy, but please, trust me.
Well, it's not like I have a better choice at the moment. Actually, there is Dylan's apartment, but it's on the other side of the city. I'm too tired and too strapped for cash to get there. Even if I did just get paid, I guess Oswald's right. Oh, okay, I trust you.
Come on, then. Get those feet moving. The lights are motion activated, by the way.
I do as I'm told and start walking down the steps. listening to Oswald's footsteps echoing within the inky blackness of this stairwell. One after another, a set of lights slowly reveal a short tunnel situated below, with a speck of light faintly glowing towards the end as it bent. While I walk, my curiosity starts to grow. I begin to wonder why Oswald is doing all this. All of this seems a bit too complex for him to just get me a bed to rest for one night. So Oswald...
Yes?
Why are you going out of your way to help me? How do I put this? You seem a bit too involved and overly concerned for someone you barely even know.
I have my reasons. Let's just say that there's a lot more to this situation than it appears.
His answer only serves to make me even more curious. But before I manage to question further, we reach the end of the tunnel. It connects to a large room teeming with a variety of things. Technological equipment, couches, panels, all of it being stored here. A woman, an orange tiger, is pacing back and forth across a large monitor and several different smaller ones, her focus unwavering. Seated on one of the couches is Max, but in different clothing. He was handling what appears to be a personal panel, scrolling through looking rather bored before Oswald greets him.
Well, you sure took your sweet time closing up shop.
Sorry, I had to deal with a few things.
The two immediately look in our direction. First with a look of happy familiarity, but then their expressions change as soon as they laid their eyes on me. The woman's expression becomes that of curiosity, but before I can get a read on Max, though, he suddenly stands from his seat.
What is he doing here?
Max is just Miles, nothing to be worried about.
Nothing to be worried about? What do you mean, nothing to be worried about? Why in the hell did you bring someone in here?
Max briskly paces towards me, a sense of violence in his gait, but Oswald blocks the way, keeping me from the male tiger's reach.
Get the fuck out of the way! What are you even planning this time, Oswald?
I'm not planning anything. He just needs a place to stay.
Oh, so you hired a homeless DJ for the bar, and now you brought him here? Real nice, you fucking idiot.
Oswald growls as he grabs Max and takes him to the center of the room. I just stand there by the entrance, keeping my distance from the two.
Eden Corpse has something to do with this, Max.
Oh, and that's supposed to make me feel better.
It was their fault he's homeless now.
We aren't a fucking charity home, Oz. Why do we have to take responsibility for this pup?
Max, it's our fault he got in this situation in the first place.
And how are we supposed to be sure that he isn't some spy for them, huh? If that husky turns out to be working for them, then you've effectively spoon-fed our location to the enemy.
If Miles was indeed a spy, I'd for sure be able to sniff out his intentions from a mile away. You know that damn well, Max.
You aren't fucking perfect. You make mistakes, and this little runt might end up being that mistake.
You of all people should know that I'm a better judge of character between the two of us. Why can't you just trust my fucking judgment for once?
And what good has trusting your ass ever done us, huh? Enough!
The tigress intervenes, separating the two much bigger men before they lunge at each other's throats. The two continue to growl while giving each other death glares, as they make their distance grow between them. If DJ doesn't end up leaking our location, you two end these screaming matches fucking well. Max, you can just, I don't know, go to your room and calm down.
But Alice! Now!
Max grumbles and turns to leave, but not before he looks at me with cold, bitter eyes. He disappears into the hallway right next to the couch he was previously sitting on. I can hear the sound of someone punching a stone wall echoing from his direction.
And bring a fucking punching bag while you're at it! Leave me the fuck alone!
The tigress, whose name is apparently Alice, grumbles while fixing her glasses, letting out a heavy sigh afterwards.
Ah, what a hothead. He was much calmer back when we were kids.
I'm pretty sure he got that from a certain someone.
Oswald sits on the couch and begins to unwind. Alice, on the other hand, raises her brow at the wolf, which he notices.
What?
Don't you what me? You have a lot of explaining to do.
What explaining?
Oswald points at me, and Oswald quickly connects the dots. It seems that the scuffle with Max made him forget about me for a bit.
Ah, I can explain.
Just do it after you pick up Ellie. They dropped her off at Park Avenue.
Okay. Just don't give me another mouthful.
Oswald stands and walks towards the exit, patting my back as he passes me by. I'm left in Alice's company. The tigress then cautiously approaches me.
Sorry you had to see that. They aren't usually this rowdy, believe me.
I sure hope not. Those two look so scary.
They kinda have to be. They're technically the leaders of our little group here.
What group?
I'll explain everything once I get the deets of you from Ozzy. For now, we'll just start with this. Why'd he bring you here?
I assume that Ozzy just means Oswald by process of elimination. Thank you, oh great multiple choice tests in high school. I blush a bit as I'm honestly embarrassed and guilty to have all this happen just for some decent sleep. I kind of need a bed.
Well, you're in luck. There's a spare bedroom in here. You could just use that one.
Alright. She coyly directs me to the same hallway that Max went through earlier, which makes me nervous that I'll meet him on the way in his angered state. Alice notices my apprehension, a smirk on her face as she turns to fully face me again.
Don't worry. The spare room is closer to here than Max's. Besides, he has plenty of time to calm himself. That is, of course, unless he wants to get another earful from me. And believe me, he definitely doesn't want that.
Right. We walk towards the hallway, each side littered with the row of doors from end to end. She stops at the closest door to the right and opens it for me.
Here we are. Now, it isn't exactly first class, but it'll have to do.
It's okay. I'm not really picky with accommodations.
That makes both of us. Best get some sleep while you can. We'll just have to catch you up on things later, preferably when those two blockheads aren't around.
Blockheads?
Who else would I be referring to?
I'll admit, that did get a chuckle out of me. Thanks, Alice.
Well, there. We haven't even been acquainted yet. Best hold off on a first-name basis till after I get to know you better.
Oh, sorry about that.
Rookie mistake. Happens to the best of us.
Right. I'll just go ahead and sleep now.
Smart move.
I enter the room as Alice begins to walk away. Dim lights immediately turn on as I enter. It seems like every light here is automatic. I immediately set my sights on the bed, crashing into it in one swift motion, not bothering to even take off my jacket or shoes. I just want to end this extremely long and utterly exhausting day. The bed isn't as soft as my old one, but it gets the job done just fine regardless. Better than the foam flooring, at least. I begin to drift off as soon as I close my eyes.
Psst.
A mild shaking gently pulls me into a half-awake state. A hushed call pierces through my ear. I attempt to ignore the disturbances at first, but it doesn't stop. Whatever the sensation comes from pokes and prods at several parts of my body until I finally cave in. What the... My slumber is once again short-lived. I open my eyes slowly, seeing a blurry, vaguely familiar, burly figure towering over me. Whoever it is covers some of the night lights. My vision ever so slowly starts to clear, and before me turns out to be Oswald in a more casual set of clothing.
Hey, do you mind coming out a bit? I want to show you something.
Can it wait until after I get more sleep? What time is it anyway?
5:30 in the morning.
2 hours. How many times is Oswald gonna suddenly wake me up? I hope this doesn't become a regular thing. This better be worth it.
It will be. I promise.
Oswald leads me towards the door and then straight to the exit of the base rather hastily, our quick pace knocking me out of my tired stupor instantly. We briskly go up the steps and he quickly opens the door when we get to the entrance. He leads me through a winding staircase, one that goes up several floors. Oswald nearly pushes me up the steps, leaving almost no effort on my part to actually go up aside from moving my legs. The wolf continues to push me up to the highest floor. Before we reach it, though, he places one of his paws over my eyes. What are you doing?
You'll ruin the surprise.
I go ahead and just concede to whatever he was planning to do. A moment later, I hear a door slide open in front of me. Specks of light peek through the small gaps between Oswald's fingers, and I could feel Oswald hold tighten as the light intensifies.
Okay, you can open your eyes now.
Oswald removes his paw from my eyes and causes me to squint after being in the darkness for a bit. When my vision adjusts back to normal, I am greeted by one of the most breathtaking views of Bayline City that I've ever seen in my life. This place, that turns out to be the rooftop of the bar, had an amazing view of the sunrise. It's beautiful.
I knew you'd love it.
Really? How'd you know I would?
Because I've never met anybody who didn't.
I agree. Who wouldn't like this kind of view? The sunrise is spectacular here. The taller building frames the ball of light slowly rising from the horizon lined by the sea, the clouds in the sky painted in a bright yellow tones blending to their normally white coloration. The sky in front of us displays a gradient ranging from the blues of night to the yellows of morning.
You know, this place never fails to give me hope.
Hope?
Yup, hope.
For what?
That tomorrow will be less shittier than today, for starters. I'm sure that's one of the things you're wishing for.
Well, with this view, it's already gone a lot better.
Good.
Oswald hands me something while I continue to watch the sunrise unfolding in front of me. I turn my attention to it and see that it was my headphones, kept neat and tidy without so much as a scratch on it. My headphones!
You left it on the stage. I've never seen anything like it, so it caught my attention quite easily.
Well, I did make them myself. I can't believe I forgot about them.
After what happened last night, it's understandable that it'd slip your mind.
I couldn't even deny it. Last night was so eventful that my mind ended up all over the place. As Oswald and I watched the sunrise, I can't help but think about how kind he'd been to me throughout all this. I think it's quite rare for someone to be like this. I take a quick glance at him as I clutch my headphones. Hey, Oswald.
Yeah?
Thank you. A few hours pass, allowing me to get a good night's rest, albeit rather short, in my room. Well, it's more like a good morning's rest than anything, but that's beside the point. A short while later, I started hearing several distinct noises coming from outside. I slowly opened my eyes to stare at the door while I lay flat on my bed, waves of curiosity washing over me and making me want to see what's happening on the other side. My body begins fighting with my brain as soon as I stand up, though, with a sinking feeling that makes me slump back onto my bed and stay there, leaving me in a personal torturous cycle of playing hot and cold with opening the door. Midway through my hesitation, it suddenly slides open. My vision is suddenly fixated on the silhouette of a large figure blocking the doorway. I stumble slightly backward when I see Max leaning on the doorframe with an apathetic look in his eyes. Oh, hi? He glances my way as I stutter in front of him, sighing under his breath.
Just get your ass over to the briefing room.
The briefing room?
It's the first room we saw when Oswald brought you here. Alice called for you.
What would she want with me?
Beats me.
He moves out of the way to let me pass. As I walk past him, though, he mutters something under his breath.
Anyway.
Huh? Max rises his brow at me once more before walking towards the briefing room.
Doesn't matter. You're gonna be leaving soon anyways.
What?
Huh? Why do you look so surprised? We never discussed that you could stay for any longer than one night.
I guess that's true, but... The tiger sighs once more before turning to face me.
Look, let me save you the trouble. Alice is most likely gonna tell you just that, only she's gonna go and sugarcoat it. But now, you know better.
He turns and starts walking in the direction of the briefing room, leaving me behind to my worries. I guess it is true. I shouldn't have expected any more than one night's stay around here, but where else am I gonna go? Am I being too optimistic to bet on people's goodwill nowadays? Now that I think about it, it does sound pretentious and kind of selfish of me to expect some special treatment, especially from absolute strangers. Well, I suppose I have to get ready to leave either way. I wrap myself in an embrace for a bit before I sheepishly proceed to the briefing room. The briefing room is about as empty as I'd seen it the night before. There's Max leaning in a corner, eyes closed, probably keeping to himself. He seems a lot more serene when he's all by his lonesome like this. I'd much rather avoid tangling with him, even if I do end up staying here. It's only been less than a day, yet I already know that his personality doesn't mix well with mine. In an effort to avoid getting into the invisible radius of Max's wrath, I shimmy around the opposite corner, slowly inching myself closer to where Alice stands. The tigress seems to be in deep concentration, directed at the large screens in front of her. She turns her head in my direction, seemingly enough for her to see me in her peripherals. However, she's acting if I'm not there. I inch closer to her, trying to see what has her extremely focused. Her figure isn't that big, so I'm able to peek through some of the panels she has floating around her. One of them has a picture of me, and some blocks of text trailing down beyond the panel. I try to read what was on it, but I'm caught off guard when Alice collapses it and turns to me.
Hey there, Sleeping Beauty. Rest well.
I'm fine, I suppose. Your beds are a lot softer than the floor.
It better be. It wasn't exactly cheap outfitting all those bedrooms.
I chuckle a little bit at her snark, feeling my mood starting to lighten up a bit. So what was it you needed from me? Her smile slowly dissipates. In its place is a stern, albeit uneasy expression. She turns her head from the desk before giving her attention to me, breathing out a heavy sigh in the process.
Well, it's about your arrangement in staying here.
A pit in my stomach forms, knowing full well what she's about to tell me. What about it?
Well, it's a little hard to explain. Well, Miles, you see... Just get to the point already.
Max suddenly blurts out, clearly listening in on our conversation.
Shut it, Max!
Alice retorts while I stand awkwardly in the middle of the tension that formed between them seemingly out of nowhere.
Right. You, can't stay here.
I cringe internally as Alice confirms what Max said earlier.
That is, unless you join our group.
Huh? Before we even notice, Max is already stomping towards us, his scowl shifting into nothing short of subdued anger.
Alright, sis. What the crap are you peddling on?
I flinch at Max's sudden advance while Alice stays undeterred, not even passing so much as a quick glance at the large tiger.
It was our decision. Our? I didn't hear of any Mine and Oswald's. What?
Max, visibly taken aback, facepalms at what seems to be an absurdity to him.
This is ridiculous. Look, Max, he's better staying here with us than out in the open. Because of the goodwill of your own hearts?
He says it rather flippantly, mocking the female.
To keep our location from being leaked, you idiot. Of course. And how can you explain to me why you didn't bother to tell me about this? Would you have said anything besides no? No. Then we're done talking.
A short while after that amusing spat between the two, Oswald comes in from the entrance behind Max, holding 2 paper bags. They seem to be filled to the brim, the contents peeking out from the top of the rough brown texture of the bags.
What's going on here? I could hear the screaming from the other end of the hallway.
Oh, great. Here comes the pup's savior.
Ah, I'm gonna assume you've already filled Miles in.
I was about to, but someone just had to interrupt.
Max rolls his eyes and proceeds to just close himself off from the two, scoffing as he goes back to his corner.
All right, now that he's out of the way...
Alice?
There's a hint of sternness to his voice, almost as if he's reprimanding Alice.
Right. Gotta explain everything to the newbie. Let's just move on, shall we?
Right.
Oswald moves to the side in a rather sluggish manner, while Alice expands a specific panel from her desk to fully display all the information on it. While I do find what Alice has to store for me rather interesting and honestly a bit overwhelming, I can't help but notice the disappointed look on Oswald's face. I take a quick glance at Max, having returned to his sulking spot, wearing a similar expression about him, though he has a lot more sullen than annoyed.
All right, Miles. Before I go about the nitty-gritty, I'm gonna need your verbal confirmation.
Alice takes out a rather small box from her desk drawer. She opens it in front of me to reveal an armlet-like device inside.
Will you join Midnight Sun?
She asks me in a rehearsed fashion. Sure?
Your response needs to be certain, Miles.
Okay. Yes. The device lights up, after which Alice closes the box and places it back on her desk.
All right, then. We'll take your word for it.
Now what? Do I have to work for the bar now, or...
Well, yes and no.
Huh?
Here, let me explain.
Alice proceeds to move out of the way of the large panel behind her that's displaying multiple images and paragraphs of text. There was a picture of a tower, one that looked quite familiar, then a block of text that seemed to be an article under it. The headline is about Eden Corpse. That would make the building Eden Tower, the very same tower that has a miniaturized version displayed in the center of the plaza's fountain. I'm sure you're well versed about Eden Corpse and its humble beginnings here in Bayline City. They're the main reason why this country's among the leading ones in the first world.
Yep, you can hardly miss that fact because of all of our advancements technologically that are present in today's society. Expanding from medical technology to all branches of technology, then to philanthropic work, you'd be forgiven if you thought that they were mostly a benevolent entity.
Sadly, that isn't the whole story.
It's not? But how?
Well, what do you get when you're the reason for a large party's success?
Power?
Exactly. Ever since Eden Corp's CEO, Evelyn Eden, made her advancements in the industry, her company started to become a focal point for a lot of favors and benefits. Problem is, it was the government that quickly became the company's #1 backer.
After a few years, they turned the government into their lapdog, using their power they achieved to exert more control over the city and the country at large.
That's when all the shitty stuff started to happen.
Max suddenly interjects from his corner, catching everyone off guard.
Yes. In an instant, lives were ruined. Entire neighborhoods either destroyed or turned into industrialized versions of what they once were. They gave the choice for people to monopolize and submit to the power of the company's expanding scope. Or eliminate those that dared not to.
He says rather grimly, a hint of disdain in his tone.
Well, we don't need to explain it all in detail. You've experienced it for yourself.
I guess that's true. Everything they said begins to settle in my mind. A realization suddenly hits me hard. Wait, so the thing that happened to me is also happening to dozens of other people?
By the boatload. Sometimes more, sometimes less. At times experiencing a worse fate than you had.
Then all of those protests against the Eden Corps.
The flickering embers of hope in people whose lives were ruined by the company.
But if there are that many people protesting, why isn't anyone doing anything about it?
Well, would you bite the hand that feeds you?
All of those lives ruined in exchange for those who are left to benefit from the company's advancements.
I thought to myself for a moment, some things just don't add up about this whole thing. This can't be all there is behind Eden Corps, right? All of that technology that I enjoy and use every day, it's all built on the exploited lives of countless people? I haven't heard of any of these before. None of these stories ever went public.
They have eyes and ears everywhere. Even if we did find a journalist who was willing to report on it, the technology that surrounds them would only serve to strengthen their bias.
So, what do we do? What do all of you have to do with Eden Corps anyway?
Well, we're going to be fighting fire with fire.
What?
They want to control other people's lives from the shadows, so we're going to bring the fucking fight to the shadows too. What we do can be summarized like that, yeah. We use the guise of the bar to clear away as much suspicion as we can while we fight to level the playing field for everyone.
So you guys are like some sort of resistance?
Someone has to fight for the helpless.
Oswald poses rather heroically in front of me, causing Alice to chuckle a bit.
My God, stop that. You're making me want to hurl my breakfast out.
Miles seemed to appreciate it, yeah?
That made me realizing I was blushing in front of them, making me want to cover my face a little bit out of embarrassment.
Okay, now that that's all settled, time to give you a grander tour of the place. Also, don't you and Max have some training to do?
Oh, right. I was rushing because of that. Kinda zoned out back here.
Just take Max and leave.
She says abruptly, unamused at Oswald's apparent cluelessness.
Right. Hey, yo, Max, time to...
I was waiting on you, bud.
Of course you were. Been waiting to unwind in the training room.
Oswald places his arm on Max's shoulders as he said that, half hugging the tiger.
Get off me.
Not until we get there.
Then both of them disappear into the hallway behind me, leaving me alone with Alice.
Alright, now that they're gone, time to get you better acquainted with the place.
Already?
Yep, can't you have you being a lost deadweight puppy for too long.
Right. Just, what have I gotten myself into? One day I'm living my life, being a DJ in a gig for some big bar, then all of a sudden I'm part of some underground resistance group? And here I thought I would only stay for at least one night in a comfy bed too. Kind of a huge leap in the sequence of events there, I'd say. Didn't have any time to dawdle on the absurdity of the whole thing, though as Alice is already pulling me towards a short opening just across the hallway Max and Oswald went through.
Let's start with the infirmary.
Okay, just please stop tugging my jacket.
Oh? Sorry. Just don't be too slow, alright?
Try to keep up. We walk towards the rather short hallway with little to no bends or intersections with a set of doors at the end of the path. Alice stops briefly to unlock the door and opens them for me to get a good look at the infirmary.
This is the infirmary. You can have any bruises or wounds fixed up or any cuts or gashes stitched here. And believe me, you'll be getting a lot of them.
Well, that's quite a comforting thought.
Oh, and don't go inside that other set of doors over there unless someone explicitly tells you to, okay?
Alright. Okay, the infirmary is starting to give me the creeps right now, and I'm not here for it. I just hope whatever they're gonna make me do doesn't involve me having to visit this place way too often.
Huh? What's wrong? Your fur is all bristled.
Nothing, just anxious. Let's move on, shall we?
Okay, if you say so.
Alice ushers me out of the infirmary right back into the lounge. We then make a turn towards the hallway, but instead of going right to the rooms, we go straight ahead.
The door back here leads to the kitchen. It doesn't get used very often, only when Oswald and I get meals ready for the team. Just opposite that is the greenhouse, another place you shouldn't go without explicit permission.
It dawns on me that there are two restricted doors seem to lead to the same general area. Curiosity fills my mind and I eventually cave in. Why can't I go there exactly?
Well, that place connects to the testing labs my partner and I use. We make just about everything the team needs for any assignments they might get tasked to do.
What kind of assignments?
Oh, you know, recon missions, occasional heist here or there. Everyone's got their style and spin on finishing their tasks, and me and my partner just try and best to accommodate those with the right tools.
So, you're kind of an inventor.
For the team, yes. No one else has the correct handle on it, so I took up the task. Maybe someday I'll be able to set you up with some better gear, once I get to know your specific style better, starting with that jacket.
My jacket? What's wrong with it?
Don't think I didn't notice that you bought that from Neon Peaks. Same place I buy my clothes, but I did hide that one away so nobody could buy it and wear it during my last visit at the plaza.
No wonder Dai had to look for it in some secluded shelf.
You say something.
Nothing. Alice just shrugs and continues with the tour. She walks into the hallway, eventually reaching an opening at the end. There were sounds of hollowed-out steps coming from that direction. I can see a sort of platform as well as the shuffling legs of a familiar tiger and wolf pair.
Last but not least, this is the training room. You'll most likely be using this place a lot if you're to do some legwork out in the field.
You mean work in the field?
Revolutions don't happen while you're lazing about in the base all day, you know. Not unless you're me, that is.
Huh. Alice peeks a bit in the training room before grabbing me by the arm and places me beside her as I get a full view of the entire place. The entrance is mostly blocked by a boxing ring with Oswald and Max in the middle of a sparring session inside. Just next to it are a few weights, as well as some panels. To the distance is what looks like a shooting range, all lined up with long vertical divisions.
Well, this is where the tour ends. I still have to set everything up for you, so you can just watch these two while they bruise each other's faces in the meantime.
Alright, thanks for showing me around.
You better not get lost now.
Alice turns towards the direction of the lounge as I proceed to shamble my way around the ring. Oswald and Max are going at it, exchanging quick blows. Little to none of them are ever really connecting. As I continue to watch them, it becomes apparent how agile Oswald is compared to Max, but the tiger strikes were a lot more fierce in comparison. I could feel the wind-breaking aura of Max's jabs. Then as Max goes for one quick strike on Oswald's muzzle, the wolf quickly evades it, landing a quick strike directly on the tiger's stomach. This causes Max to stagger a bit, coughing as he falls to his knees.
4 out of 3, Max. One more strike and I win.
Yeah, You're so fucking slippery.
And you waste your stamina trying to make every stroke count. What did I tell you about long tussles?
Only wind up the ones that I can connect, right?
Exactly.
Sorry, just been a bad mood since that
That's when Max's eyes fall on me, prompting him to do a double take. He quickly clicks his tongue as he enters in his closed-off form again. Oswald approaches and places his paw on Max's shoulder before giving him a stern look. The tiger only scoffs as he makes his way to lean on one of the corners of the ring. Oswald then turns to me, putting some of his weight on the ropes on the side closest to me.
Hey, Miles. Glad to see you're done with the tour.
And I'm gonna stop there. So we just got done with the tour and walked in on Max and Oswald sparring. And joined an underground resistance against one of the biggest corporations in this country. Yeah. This has been Fritz-Ay Says, and everyone have a nice day, and I hope we live. Ciao.